All right. Well, hello. It's time for another Monday Night Eden open mic. We just did an induction of Nils. Jesse's on a roll. He's going for the record of most invites. So yeah, so we just got that done, and now it's a fair game for open mic.
I think I got a long way still to go to beat you, Chris.
It's true. I'm collecting too many. I've been a lot of witnesses though. I haven't invited a ton, but I've witnessed a ton.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And as the witness, of course, you still get the NFT. Yeah, my NFT list is serious. When those become worth something, I'm going to be loaded.
Hopefully they will.
Mark, you got a few too.
I got a bunch. Yeah, I even bought a handful.
Oh yeah, the beginning it seemed like some of them, yeah, more of them were getting purchased at the beginning there. Now that it's lost the novelty a bit and haven't really seen a function for them.
Yeah, there was a recent message in the Eden private channel about this account that was buying and selling a lot of the Eden NFTs.
Okay.
And it was my brother. And he's not in Eden, but he's like speculating on the NFTs.
No way. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, if no one's buying them, if you can get them for like, what is it, 0.1 EOS for the ones that don't get bid on?
Right. So that's what he's doing. And then he's selling them for 7 EOS, looks like, on the market. So he's,
Amazing.
he's trying to do a little flip there.
Are you going to induct him? Sounds like he's meant to be here. He's playing.
Yeah.
He's playing along, playing with the game.
He's not ready yet.
No.
I don't know what to say.
Too much of a commitment.
Invitation's open, but he doesn't want to yet.
$2 Too busy
Yeah, I don't
making
know.
money, yeah.
Oh, no problem, Mills. You can smoke in the recording. This is just a 2-hour whatever. It's you won't hurt anyone's feelings. There's
I'm
no
just
second.
saying, is he too busy making money? He's not interested in coming on board.
Yeah, I think he doesn't feel like he can bring that much value to Eden himself.
He brings 200 EOS the moment he
And
joins.
so he doesn't really see the point. I told him, but it doesn't go to him, right?
Yeah, well, fair enough. But maybe, I mean, yeah, to each their own. It's true. But if he holds EOS and he sees that Eden will be good for EOS, then that 200 will at least go to use doing something for EOS. Slightly for him.
Yeah, he knows.
Yeah, right on.
I think he'll join eventually. I think he'll be here eventually, just not yet.
Mark, have you had any luck finding more people to invite?
Oh, yeah, I invited and onboarded 2 folks this week,
Oh, good.
which was great. Alan and Brian. Alan has his own EOS like site and creations. So it looks like he's a developer. And Brian is pretty much kind of a friend from Voice.
Oh, interesting.
And
Made some voice contacts before it was shut down.
Yeah, it's I saw an appeal today to Salah to reestablish all of that as kind of like just an archive online. And
Yeah.
I thought, yeah, they should have already done that. But yeah, I don't know, I just am happy that basically October 9th, I'm happy Dan has a MVP for what he always wanted to do after, I guess you'd say, EOS was launched. And yeah, so I mean, I'm happy about like crypto in general. I'm happy about Eden having an election on 9 October. Like when I say happy, I'm like I'm really, really happy and love that. So crypto, and right now the market's going rocky. It's like that doesn't matter to me at all.
Yeah.
And Voice and the roadmaps on road bumps doesn't matter to me at all. I you know, and Atomic Hub with all of our NFTs, and then what voice was kind of like, we were like, if we win someone's voice article, we want it to be put into an NFT. Apparently that's harder than it sounds, because they had to rewrite the whole script on voice, and then they did, and it's good, you know, the way it is. I don't think it's getting any traction, but I don't know about what their plans are for how to get traction with something like that. But right now I bought probably like 20 or 30 voice NFTs, and I haven't sold any of them for like 7 times the price, because I bought like I think $300 worth, and I put all of them on for like 5,000.
Hilarious.
And I created like 15 of my own, you know, by the way, you know, and so I just littered the whole thing. There is like zero to little to no action on voice, at least right out the gate, for these big beta push recently. You know, I don't know what the last year, 9 months have been like, but I doubt it's been like a lot of selling.
Right. Well, I think they've got their work cut out for them to draw in more than just this niche community. So hopefully it'll be marketing like we've never seen. I think that's the line, right?
Yeah, I was going to say that, you know, hopefully that's on their roadmap or roadmap. But I was really jumped on here today to say congratulations, really, for the 200,000 and plus 3,000 plus.
And come back.
You know, so
Yeah, man.
big
That's a
congrats
big.
to you and Josh, and
Wow.
you know,
It's not us. But I think it's just nice to see that Eden's not going away. So all the efforts up to now won't be wasted, won't be in vain, right? This is something that's
totally
continuing.
I really hope that's the case in a year, you know, but October 9th is like such a cool thing to be a part of. I mean, it's as cool or cooler than the original mock election.
Yeah. Oh, it's definitely much cooler. Now it's going to be with an app and tons of people, like way more people, and actual dough on the line. Like, oh yeah, things have changed. And anybody, it looks like a couple comments. Nils stopped the camera. I mentioned it earlier because he was smoking. Dario's on. Hey guys, just listening again. Oscar also listening. Nils is back. But anybody else, you know, feel free to turn your camera on or just post stuff in the chat and I'll read it. But yeah, thanks for tuning in. Lots of excitement going on.
I got something to talk about if we want to.
The floor is yours. The conch, I've passed it over. There you go.
All right, so EOSBs did a tweet earlier today about a proposal for Eden. So I just want to kind of clear the air. This is not a proposal, it's just an idea. So I should have said idea. And this is not for this election, this is for a future election. And I personally will not be running for this idea, but I just wanted to share it for the community. If someone else wants to take it up, it's for the Eden community. So
do you want to elaborate for those who don't know, and then maybe those who might watch this recording, what you're talking about?
Yeah. So I'm going to start saying what it is. The idea is for a parallel election on Eden. So that's kind of like the headline. And I'm going to read a quote right now so I was reading More Equal Animals, and I pulled this quote that inspired me for this idea. And so it is, the problem we face is that any single distribution is likely to have a narrow specialty. For example, if political playoffs selects for consensus builders, it might select against strategic thinkers and engineers. The skills needed to govern a society may require consensus on a diverse set of traits which no single Pareto distribution can optimize for. Assuming the skill sets don't align completely, sharing influence among multiple Pareto distributions increases the diversity and decentralization of influence. The challenge becomes to identify a set of unique games to identify the best of the best. So when I read that, the idea is the way we're doing it the first two trial elections was kind of predicted by Dan. He just said this, that it is selecting against strategic thinkers and engineers. The only reason why
I'm trying to say I'm not a strategic thinker and engineer.
the only reason why an engineer won the second trial election was because of the sortition. If I remember correctly, Chris would have been the second nominee if there wasn't sortition. So I think that we should obviously see how this election goes, maybe see how the next election goes. And if this trend is continuing, the idea is to have a second game when we do these elections. And the game is a developer competition. So each round would be a developer challenge. The first one to complete the challenge would win the round and move on to the next round. And each preceding round gets more complex. And so perhaps, you know, we split the distribution for the treasury. So that's the idea.
And then when it's solving for the best person who's able to solve these challenges, essentially? Is that because they're voting
so it's,
when you move through? Do the devs choose amongst themselves who should move forward?
No, it's no voting. It's
Oh,
just very objective. If you win, you move on. So we're selecting for hard skills, and then the voting on consensus is our soft skills. So this is decentralizing the influence. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, at a minimum, it's such a tournament. I mean, that just sounds like a classical tournament, except you include the randomization of your opponents, I suppose.
Yeah, and one of the things in the book that I think now that we kind of see it in action a little bit, it may not be correct, is the campaigning. So Dan makes a claim in the book that it's immune to campaigning. I don't know the exact phrase, but developers, just in the nature of their work, there's no campaigning. Like, you kind of have to be tight-lipped and like work on your product, and then when it's ready, announce it. So it's a huge advantage for the soft-skilled people, the way we're doing it now, because it seems like campaigning does and will give you more influence in the way we're doing the elections now. So we really do need, I think, another game.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I'm not sure. Because campaigning in of itself isn't necessarily bad. I think it's more the political parties piece that Dan is more honing in on when it comes to this. Because campaigning is, anybody can cheerlead for themselves in advance of an election, and that's a campaign. So I don't think it's that. It's more the party politics where you have two parties campaigning and everyone's just lumped on red team, blue team. Because of the random distribution, that becomes less valuable, and people aren't going to be shoehorned into two groups likely in this type of scenario. But either way, I don't know. Yeah, so that's campaigning. But in terms of the soft skills I don't know if selecting for soft skills, it's selecting for consensus builders who can receive funding. So in the end, you have to still have a pitch. Like, you could be really great at telling people that you're great and they should vote for you. But if you don't have anything to do with the money, I don't think that's still necessarily, like, you're having strong soft skill disposition isn't going to mean I should vote for you. I mean, what are you going to do with the dough? That's not necessarily like how you express that and explain it, and it can describe why your idea with the money is better than someone else's idea with the money. But it's still, you have to have something to do with the money, in my mind anyway.
Yeah, it's just developers, or the classic developer, they're just not as social and they express themselves differently. And so I think it's harder for them. So yes, you can, and so Josh is commenting in the comments, yes, you can collaborate. The soft skill people and the hard skill people can collaborate, but it seems like the hard skill people need to depend on the soft skill people. They need to get them on board in order to do well in the election.
Maybe, but not all. John Heater, he can do the soft skills. John Heater can he can pitch.
He's an exception. He's a really exceptional guy.
Yeah, but even still, how many devs work in isolation anyway? Like, so you're still gonna have a bit of a team. So as long as someone on the team can help best represent the ideas, it doesn't mean the rest of the team members won't still show up in the election and be there. Are they going to be as compelling as telling their story? Maybe not.
Definitely not.
But some might be okay. I don't know. I mean, if it's a good idea, it's a good idea. That's, I think, so whether you get stuck in the weeds on explaining the technical details, yeah, maybe having the hard skills is better than the soft skills. Like if you get teamed up in a room, you got two good ideas and one person can't answer the questions about, is it open source? How's the code going to work? How do you solve this? Maybe you ask good questions that are relevant in terms of, like, say Ami was in a room with Aaron from Grey Mass and maybe say Daniel also from Grey Mass or Matthew, and those guys who had like comments about how this WebAuthn might be difficult, and then you had a deciding vote. Ami might not have been able to, like, he can explain it technically, but if he had another soft skilled guy who was pitching on behalf of Ami and he's like, I actually don't know exactly how the WebAuthn is supposed to get around this particular detailed hard problem you've raised, and even though I'm a soft skilled silver tongue type of dude, may not be enough to get me through. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's an interesting idea, and certainly, like you say, let's see how these next few elections play out.
We'll see.
Mel says devs usually have a project leader that have the soft skills. Nova says you can be your own CEO, CTO, and have a mix of both. Yep, some can, and he says, yeah, exactly. It's rare, so not everybody. That's true. And it's like the classic, specialist, right? So someone like you get these savants who are crazy good at certain things, and yeah, they're not as good at other things. So ideally, whatever you're deficient in, add that person to your team, and hopefully it helps you long run.
But it's just more so, like, the type of game doesn't really matter whether it's a developer competition or something else. But I mean, I think Dan's super on point when he says that no single Pareto distribution can give us the best optimization. Like, I feel like we have to come up with different games or competitions.
Depends what you're solving for. It depends on what again, that's where before I used to say that this process solves for trust. Like, what are you solving for? What is this solving for? So leadership, and okay, but then in what way? So trusted people who will take community funds and execute with those funds to deliver the maximum results for the EOS community. So to me, it's more about trust, not even necessarily soft skills. If trust is a soft skill, okay, fine, but not necessarily. You can have some hard-nosed, firm people, but they're really trustworthy because they mean what they say and they're principled. And yeah, they might be a little rough around the edges, but I can trust them.
I'm not sure that trust is a skill, but no, I
Exactly.
know what you're saying.
Exactly, right? So it's elusive. It's like, yeah, how do you earn trust in a digital community where this is the extent of our interactions and relationships? I could say whatever, like, hello, politician. They say whatever people want to hear. And so is that what we're solving for in this? Maybe we are. Maybe we're solving for people who just say what we want to hear. That
the skill would be to determine when to trust or not trust.
Right.
Of the audience. Yeah. Yeah. And then how vocal, how much noise do the break of trust moments become amplified? So who's checking amongst the community to be like, hey, you just did something wrong, kind of. That's slightly immoral and unethical, or you've taken community funds and didn't exactly do what you said you were going to do, and then broadcast that for the rest of the community to find out about, and then vote accordingly next time.
Yeah, for sure.
It's going to be neat. Oh, we got lots of comments. Mark has put in the intro to the book that Dan wrote. In this book, we explore a new democratic process designed to encourage consensus building rather than division into political factions. Imagine for a moment a democratic society governed without party politics, politicians campaigning, mudslinging, identity politics, ballot stuffing, gerrymandering, incumbent advantage, special interests, or the debates with the authenticity of a WWE wrestling match. Yep, that is a sweet line. And politicians campaigning is one of the major items Dan would like to discourage. Yeah,
Yeah,
Seth
that was
wrote,
the point.
oh,
It's
go-
like right out the gate in that introduction, he comes out and it's one of his short list item is discourage political campaigning.
yeah. So I see that more as like the party campaigning, not just individuals who might campaign. So that's a little nuance.
Yeah, something to think about.
Seth wrote, I think optimization will be an issue when we have more than 5,000 members, for example. That will be bizarre to see. 5,000 members and 1,000 people in an election. That'll be bizarre. Really testing it. Nils.
I agree. Our scale is pretty small right now to optimize, but that's what I'm saying. Like for the future, like just let's keep this
Yeah.
in the back of our mind for the future.
Yeah, 100%. And just multiple games. Like, why not have multiple? Like, use the process frequently. Like, the Eden process doesn't have to be just held to this one incarnation. Like we've talked about lots of times. This can be philanthropy. Give to a local community to have an Eden style election so the local community members themselves can pitch to each other about the skate park and the computer room in the library, or pick your downtown suburb, whatever community that wants to receive some money from a philanthropist and donate it there. Do an Eden election. Nils wrote to have the good thing about having good developers is that they bring a more realistic technical vision to other part of the team that does not value well the steps that you need to follow in some implementations. Absolutely. A CTO helps a lot to the CEO members who often seem to be a higher rank. Yeah, it's like you need to have sort of people with some grand ideas, but then sometimes those ideas are not possible, or at least not how they're designed or envisioned, right?
It's totally true. In my
Yeah.
project is a normal situation. Sorry, my English people. In
No,
my
it's
project
okay.
is a normal situation. It's a big idea, but dev team is stop the team
Yeah.
and planification the steps. The first one step for the people you need introduction the new service, the new web, the new program, and step by step. There is a good depth is necessary in this ecosystem.
Yeah. 100%. Combo in the end, right? Sometimes, yeah, it's all about teamwork in the end. Like you have to have a team. Some people with some ideas, maybe they're a little lofty, devs to bring it down to earth, back and forth, iterate. All of a sudden, you find a sweet spot where you can still achieve something close to the idea, but it's actually doable. What did Mel write here? If we played it twice but mixed the rooms up differently, I wonder if there would be a different outcome. Absolutely, there would, I think. Yeah. People have not, and as Seth, people have a really short memory. Look what politicians do and then people still vote for them. Yeah, exactly. Except a lot of times, Seth, I think people vote so the other guy doesn't get in. So they don't even really care what their guy does or doesn't do. And you're often voting for the leader of a party, not just the person in your local riding or jurisdiction, however it's broken out, county, I guess. So it's not quite the same. At least this way, you're voting for a person directly in front of you in a conversation. If you knew that person was a dickhead or a liar or whatever, and you knew about it, you have to know about it. If you knew about it, then I think you might remember, especially if there's a site that's created, which I would like to create, that aggregates everyone's sort of history within Eden. And then you want to go and see how someone voted previously or what they did with money if they'd received it previously. That would a one place to go to look for that information, even mid-election, and you knew a site you could go to and look somebody up. That'd be useful. So you don't forget. And what else do we have? Josh wrote, maybe it would be great, maybe we have great Eden member benefits to be able to use the member portal to run unofficial elections for special purposes. Yeah, Nova Crypto, like a sandbox. Yes, exactly. And gathering data. Yep. Yeah, like right, no funding, just like we have almost like a referendum of sorts. You run the question through an Eden election.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
And then Seth wrote, yeah, Joshua, that would be cool with special purpose. Nova, special purpose, measure the traction level of projects. Yep. Seth would be cool to have peer on .io. I don't know what that means. Ideas connected with Eden OS by answering questions, helping community to build your reputation and earn you some coins. I don't quite know what you mean. Man, comments are blowing up here. Falling behind. No crypto politicians are suffering of the Rashomon effect. I don't know the Rashomon effect. Patrick, if you
Me
want to
neither.
pop on, you could explain what that is. Seth wrote, yes, that's why state of our world is so fucked up, because everyone is voting for someone, so someone else will not take over. He directed at me. And then Piranha.io is a project on Telos. Ah, okay. Let's have a look. What is Piranha.io? In our Eden on Eos Zoom, we do not have to only talk about Eos. We can look at the competition. It's under construction. It says the site's not working. We are working on making Piranha better. We'll come back soon. I cannot tell. Oh yeah, he just wrote it's under construction now. So we better hurry and beat the market. But it was working for a couple months. Okay. I interviewed Michael, I don't know his last name, from EOS USA EOS. And I guess one of the things that they do is they highlight their sort of working towards IBC and between different ISO chains, EOS IO chains, sorry. And sort of asked the question of like, no one seems to really be doing that because there's not a great way to monetize it yet. But at least they sort of, because they've dabbled in so many of the different ESIO chains, more than dabbled. I mean, I think they run nodes for practically all of them. So they're going to be a great, and once this sort of market opens up for this need to be cross-chain more so between sister chains and ESIO chains, those guys will be right in the right spot to help make that happen. Or to facilitate the API and the endpoints, I guess. What did Seth wrote? Yes. Okay, you wrote that already. Yeah. Well, I think it's a neat idea, Jesse. Anyway, did you get some grief about that comment?
No, just a little confusion.
Okay.
It's all good. Yeah, we're still going for EOSPs. Still running for EOSPs.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you've got. I don't like. Are you disclosing your numbers yet, or how many queens and bees and how many people are within your network so far?
Yeah, the hives are public, so we have 4 hives right now.
Okay.
I actually don't know. I'm trying to get it all organized. I'd love to share our total members, but I actually don't know. I'm trying to kind of get everyone on one document to list all the members in their hives. But we're probably like around like 100, probably.
That's pretty awesome.
150. Yeah.
That's great, man. Yeah, that's awesome. Especially the different languages. I think that's
the key. Yeah, it's super cool to talk to all these diverse people, and the leaders of their hive, the princess bees, they run their hive. They make all the decisions basically, as long as they follow the bee code. So it's really interesting to see like their strategy, at least in the beginning, and it'll be super interesting to see what they do.
Mm-hmm. Well, especially interesting if from time to time they all coordinate and you do a coordinated. Let's go after this. Let's promote this particular piece. That's going to be pretty cool.
Totally the idea for the big pieces. Like, yeah, we want to coordinate through languages. That's really the competitive advantage, marketing wise, that we can have over other chains. If we can coordinate the different languages, that's the key. I don't think other chains are doing this.
Yeah, I wonder about that. I don't know. I
think it's just a really hard problem.
Have you noticed how much more tweets we're getting on Twitter from the bees? I think that's really helped a lot. Fighting the FUD.
Probably.
Yeah, Crypto Dunker, he had commented that he's just seeing a little bit of an uptick on Twitter EOS Twitter generally, right around the time that we kind of started doing our thing. So I don't really know, but yeah. And I told him like this is nothing. Like if we get like, if people are actually incentivized, like it's going to be a lot better.
Yeah.
Someone was saying actually, I can't remember who it was. It was Dallas Rush. I can't remember who it was now, but someone saying it. They thought it was they had like a load of bots running. I don't know if you saw that. They thought it was a load of bots rather than real people.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
B-bots.
No, I didn't see that.
Yeah, I did that. I did answer. I think a few people answered him. I don't know if it was Dallas or someone. I can't remember who it was, but I'm sure you'll see it.
It goes to show how good of a force it is. It's emulating what bots would do. These are everywhere. This can't be real people.
Yeah, that's the idea. That's great to hear.
Exactly.
Yeah, even that Brian the artist commented on it. The guy who's doing all the zombie pics. Oh, he did. Did you see the there's someone who drew, looks like a bit of a zombie bee. That's hilarious.
Yeah, that was he put it up for a 3-hour auction, and it was like the first EOSB NFT. So I participated in the auction. I lost, but yeah, 55.5 EOS was the winning bidder.
That's awesome. Power of NFTs.
It's quite mad how well these NFTs are selling. I'm quite surprised actually.
I think a lot of the crazy money ones we're seeing in Ethereum are people selling to themselves. It seems such an easy.
Yeah,
I don't know.
probably.
I don't know enough about the inside of this, but to me, if I was trying to do a racket, I would get a few whales together, and then you basically, as long as you know who runs the exchange or like wherever, like the version of Atomic Hub, because that's where you lose your percent. You'd lose some money there. But if you knew that whoever was running that, and they just say, look, you can use it for free, because then you sell to yourself, doesn't cost you anything other than gas fees, and then you just wait for some schleb, and then you sell it to the market. And then you make your dough because, oh, look, it's sold once for this. You could even sell it 7 times to yourself. If there's no fee to sell it, you could just sell it back and forth, back and forth, back and forth until all of a sudden someone else tries to buy it. And there you go. You've just cashed in. You do that over and over and over again, you make a mint.
That's for sure happening, for sure. One other thing that is maybe interesting to share from the bees is there's certain languages that I've discovered. So there's 2. Arabic and Hindi. There is no representation of the EOS community in those major languages, and like there's nothing on Twitter, nothing. So I'm speaking to 2 very good potential candidates for Princess Bees, and we're kind of deciding like we can't even do a hive yet. We have to see like a proof of concept. Like these other languages, like for example French and Polish, there's already like a Telegram group for EOS French and EOS Polish. It's like, okay, this makes sense. Let's do a hive.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to first test. Let's just set up just not even EOS Bees, just like a general EOS Hindi, EOS Arabic Telegram group, Twitter channel, and let's see if there's interest there. I mean, there has to be. There has to be people that are in crypto that we're just not servicing. Some major languages has been very like a recent discovery.
Yeah, 100%. And I think maybe your point, right? Like you were saying about how many other of the cryptos have really broken into these other languages.
Well, Bitcoin and Ethereum are definitely in Hindi and Arabic and all the languages. But the question is, and I doubt that the Bitcoin community can coordinate all the languages, because that's just like a super hard problem. I'm just assuming they aren't doing it, but maybe they are.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Depends how centralized they are, kind of. And
right,
if
there has to be a centralized.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so EOS Bees is a centralized app. I mean, it's not an app, it's just a centralized entity. So you need something like that. And if there's a bit of like decentralization maximalism, which it kind of seems like in Bitcoin at least, I think the probability is very low that they're able to achieve coordination among languages.
Here's hoping. If they can give EOS an edge because of what the bees can do, why not? We will take it. Take that edge. Comments. What is going on here? Are you speaking Auster? No. Lots. Wash trading in NFTs is definitely happening. EOSIO is 0 fee, instant information, basically. Yep. Nova Crypto, absolutely. But I love crypto voxels, and at least for the parcels, I haven't really followed that too much. Crypto voxels. Seth said, interesting. Do you have a link for EOS Polish at Jesse? Send if you have a link to that.
Yeah, give me a second. Yeah.
And the Nils, how many transfers have we seen with hundreds of ETH to pay the fee, and a single pool out of the blue took the block, money laundered?
Hey, it's I don't know who asked, but it's t.me/EOSPL.
Sweet. Oscar's just writing for now. Mel, there's too much noise in the background now. Okay, Seth, you found it. Sweet. And no, crypto better begin centralized and decentralized step by step. Yeah, absolutely. That's right, Patrick. That's why we're so supportive of the foundation. It's like fighting this narrative of we're really decentralized, and like all the people would fudding about how EOS was centralized. Centralized ain't bad if you can get shit done. So that's it's needed. Francophone guys are EOS_FR in Telegram, and also for the bees. Yeah, that's right. That's right. Anything. That's right, Patrick. Yeah, anything. Start centralized and decentralize it, and even for the bees. Yeah, maybe eventually within your bees, your role as the queen bee, Jesse, becomes elected in through an Eden election. All the bees have their own Eden election to figure out the hierarchy.
That's been in the white paper since version 1. Yeah.
Yeah, right on. Which challenging, because if you're going to elect the queen, that means you're having an election amongst languages, because you sort of oversee all the languages, right?
I didn't even think about that. Yes, you're right.
But
here's the thing, though. We may have multiple queens. Actually, we if we're successful, we definitely will have multiple queens. So there could be regional queens that could be voted in.
Yeah. Well, you're going to iterate, and you're centralized enough you can iterate quickly. Hence, one of the benefits of centralization. You can be agile, and you're not waiting for approval of a committee to actually do something or make it so that could work. Do an election, like you say. They can all have their language Eden styles to figure out who their princesses are, and then have them, maybe one of the requirements is speak a bit of English if you want to be able to sort of, that's the overarching language. So then you can coordinate better, or have translators. That work too.
Yeah. So I think John's on, Mr. John Boyd.
John Heater's on. Heater. He is. I see him. Yeah.
Would you like to say hi?
Guys.
How's it going, man?
What's up?
Hey, John.
I was told I should drop by.
Hi.
That's not the only reason I drop by, though.
Yeah. Okay. So, can you? I would just like to hear a summary, maybe for everyone else. We've had quite a few new Eden members, and I personally think your proposal is very interesting. So perhaps you can give a summary of what you're doing, the latest updates, and I have some questions.
Okay. I'm not really doing much other than what you read in that. I mean, I really didn't put that much time into it, but it's something I've been thinking about for a long time. So, if the community likes it and wants to fund it, then I could execute on it pretty quickly. And I've been talking with Aaron from Greymass, and I guess I don't want to reveal everything until they're ready to, but it sounds like, you know, we're all on the same page in terms of priorities and things that need to happen. One of the concerns, and I have the same concern, is just that like people want to get things funded, but they don't want to, they don't have time, or they just don't think that they're the right person to do all the extracurricular activities that people kind of are expecting, or, you know, should expect from, you know, Eden delegates, which I think is like totally reasonable. Like, just because you have a project that you want to get funded doesn't mean that you also want to be a politician and like do the rounds and all this kind of stuff. So I think like we should make it easy for people that just want to get a project funded to like have an elected, like someone who is like the face of the project, that is going to show up in the meetings and provide the reports and do all that kind of stuff. And that person doesn't necessarily need to be the same person that like is receiving the funds and doing the work. You know what I mean?
Totally.
Yeah, but can you say just what it is? I know that you wrote a blog about it, but just in your own words here, can you explain what it is?
The idea is to just solve, like in the same way that EOS Power Up solved, like, or, you know, at least alleviated the issues with resource management, EOSaccount.io will alleviate the issues with account creation, which is another big pain point that I see in the ecosystem that no one has really solved properly, in my opinion.
Okay. What about referrals? I don't think it was in the post. Is there a way to like give credit to different entities for, so basically you fund and like a smart contract, and you fund it like in advance, and then you can kind of just like give out free accounts like on Twitter or whatever. But what is this like, you know, like on blocks or whatever, you have your account and it's like buy this account, like this account created this account. So how is that going to work? Could we pick different like accounts that created that account?
Yeah. The concept of an account creating an account, in my opinion, is just a silly detail that no one should ever pay attention to. It's in the same way that like if someone sends you a token, technically they paid for the RAM when they sent it to you. As part of that transfer, they were billed some RAM. But like, in order to see who's paying for that RAM, you really have to dig into the blockchain data. Like, it's not illustrated very clearly in the interface, and it's not important, you know? So like the account that created this other account, in my opinion, it's not important, you know, like it's irrelevant. And
but it is relevant for referrals.
You want to incentivize, so Jesse, you want to sort of somehow incentivize referrals and be able to track it? Is that
Yes.
where you're going?
Yes.
That's different. So if you want to do a referral system, like we can track that in other ways. Like, it doesn't, like, you can be counted for referring someone without your account like physically creating the account, in the same way that like on EOS Power Up, when you do a power up through our system, technically our system does the power up and bills your account. Your account is not doing the power up itself, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. So is that something that you're like thinking about putting in the design of the product, a way to do that kind of referral tracking?
I just don't like, I hadn't really thought about the incentives there. Like, why should I encourage people to create accounts for other people, I guess, is my question.
Because it's like a leaderboard thing. It's like it's a credit system. Like, if there's someone that is creating a bunch of accounts for other people, at least for look, I can't speak for anyone else, but just for myself. So I've got these bees, and if I can see which bee is onboarding the most people, that's really valuable information for me.
But isn't it very check? Can you hear me?
Yep. We
Yeah.
can hear you.
Oh,
Yeah.
weird. My mic. Isn't it easy for you to just create a bunch of accounts yourself to make it look like you're inviting lots of people?
I guess, yeah. But if we know the account, like if I know the account of my bees already, like this bee has this account, then if they create a different account, then, but that's not attached to their bee account. Or maybe I don't
Well,
understand where you're.
I'm just talking about, like, you're saying you want to reward people based on the number of accounts that they create.
Right.
So couldn't I just create tons of accounts to get to the top of the leaderboard? Just create accounts for myself.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Mhm.
I suppose so. Yeah. But
That's the trick.
yeah, but like if you attach rewards directly to that, I suppose that's a attack vector. I'm just kind of just trying to think of a way to measure the success. So
Mhm.
it's not really like for like which bee onboards the most accounts.
Mhm.
It's just like on a hive, just as a total basis, like how could we measure success kind
Yeah.
of thing.
I mean, you'll be able to see, if the system is implemented the way I would like to implement it, then you would be able to see, like, in the same way you can like deposit funds and pay for power-ups, you'll be able to deposit funds and pay for account creation. So you'd be able to see how many accounts, someone created, but probably that wouldn't be the only metric that you should look at to judge the quality of one of the bees, for the reason that we're talking about.
Yeah, so other metrics are, once we onboard accounts, are these accounts participating in the ecosystem? Do they have an EOS balance? Do they hold NFTs? Those are other metrics.
Yeah. So there's more subjective, measurements you'd need to do.
Well, those are objective. EOS balance, NFT balance.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, but they could.
But what were you thinking?
I
when you said
always
subjective?
think, like, yeah, I mean, I always think adversarially. Like, that's always the first thing that comes to my mind is like, how is someone going to break this thing? So
Right,
obviously,
right.
like, if you make rules and you say, here's, how we're going to grade you, then like, give it a day or two and someone's going to figure out how to how to break the
cheat.
system. Yeah. So
Well, so that's why, like, the other metrics are these accounts actually valuable to the ecosystem or not? So it's not just the number of accounts. But I'm just trying to think of I think if we track the actual number of accounts plus the value of each account, can you think of an adversarial way that would break?
Like, if someone could just issue, free NFTs to these accounts that doesn't cost them anything, or like sell the NFTs to themselves, if there's incentive to do it, it's like, if they're not,
Exactly.
if it's not like they're not getting paid tons of money. So it's like, is someone really going to spend the time to like do that much work to fake the leaderboard? And you'll probably, you can blacklist accounts or whatever. So, I mean, like,
Yeah, and even that
Yeah.
example, use free NFTs, it's the value of the NFT. So these free NFTs are going to have really low value. That
Mhm.
account's still going to have low value.
They could wash trade a bit.
I know, but
it depends what you're offering as incentive. Like that's
Yeah.
where John's getting. Like what's the prize? So
Right.
if that carrot gets bigger and juicier, then people are going to go out of their way and they'll find a sweet spot where maybe they'll deliberately buy an NFT or they'll wash trade to themselves, lose the 10% to Atomic Cover, whatever it is,
Yeah.
just because the prize is big enough to offset that.
For sure. And
I think
this is like that would be a systemic thing. Like this is just, I'd just like to show the EOS community the kind of activity. It's not really for any particular bee or whatever.
Then don't reward it. As long as you don't provide a reward for it, then there's no reason why people would game it other than you or someone
Right.
working on your behalf to make it look like you're doing more than you are. But that's, I mean, why bother, right? So I think you could show data effectively and show
Yeah.
account transaction frequency, and there's other metrics that you could look at.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. Thank you.
It's a good idea, bottom line. I mean, bottom line, to be able to measure something and try to figure out metrics that are actually meaningful, that's super important. Dominic
But don't
mentioned
reward
this
it.
many times.
Don't reward it.
Don't reward it. Yeah, don't provide an
Right.
incentive for someone to create a metric, right? It's like the Munger or the other dude there, what's Berkshire Hathaway
Buffett.
guy's name? Buffett. Yeah, he's like, show me the incentive and I'll show you the outcome type of
Right.
comment.
Yeah. I mean, I would even say like you can do rewards, but you just have to be very careful about like checking and making sure that people aren't cheating. So it's just like, how much time do you want to spend being a gatekeeper, being checking things.
Yeah. We got some comments to catch up on. Nils, back to the account creation piece. If I understand correctly, EOS does have a problem in the ease of creating accounts in an easy and comfortable way for new and inexperienced users, both the need for assistance to create the account and the process itself. And then he's saying, I do not know if the medium long term this could evolve to facilitate the adoption. Even so, I assume this is like simplifying account creation. Even so, we should think of a RAM fund to make this free function. I'm not talking about the medium term, but in the future where adoption requires it. Yeah. If we start to scale, we want to just make it as easy as possible. Mark Shear would love a turnkey on-ramp. And then so here's saying, so deposited funds, I think speaking to what you were talking about, Jesse, in terms of measuring whether an account is good or not, if you were to incentivize that. So deposit funds could be like $1,000 and with a reasonable fee well below 1%. Oh, I'm not sure what you mean by that.
Me either.
And then Nils, the future lies in thinking about people who do not yet know about crypto. 100%, completely agree with that. We're still so early in this game. It's a fraction, it's a fraction of the population actually has an EOS or any crypto account that they meaningfully interact with. And even if they do, we still haven't seen like all this crypto shit going on and all this hype. But how many people are using blockchain yet in their day-to-day life today as a regular foundational piece? Not yet. It's still like this kind of Wild West speculation place. They still haven't really seen many killer dApps, even if they are really a dApp, that people are using, and the people like everybody. So it's coming. We all know it's coming. Whether it's but it's gonna be something boring like supply chain or I want to. So this is an interesting. Before anything else, okay. Mark had one last comment here. He agrees. Other metrics plus Eden membership is reputation centric. Lots of metrics to determine reputation. True. But I had this. This is kind of a funny story. So back in 2018, Block One they announced that they were giving out $50,000 grants. I remember, and so I worked in renewables, and I had this idea to make. So one of the things we do when you run a power plant is you need to, or any job that has any sort of hazards. It could be like a roofer, electrician, any of those sort of jobs. Before you do work, you usually do what's called a tailboard or a tailgate meeting, and you essentially have to if you have a group of people working together. Before you do any work, you talk about what you're about to do. You talk about the hazards. There's different initialisms and acronyms, but like a JHA is a job hazard analysis, or an SRA, a safety risk assessment. There's all these different terms, but they basically mean you assess the risks you're about to put yourself into. You write them all down. You write down how you're going to mitigate for those risks, whether it's like performing a lotto, zero energy, lightning, you get lightning alerts. There's wildlife nearby, like all these things you consider. And so you write down the mitigations. Everyone signs it who's participating, and that just gets tucked away. And then you have a document that legislatively, if the Ministry of Labor or who anybody comes, you need to have that to demonstrate that you're playing safe. So anyway, bottom line, it's a document. Usually it's like a piece of paper. We used to do it in PDF on a Surface Pro, and you could then do a signature there. And it's like, because one of the questions, if everyone was in a room and they did this thing, and someone gets hurt, did they sign this? Like, did they even pay attention? Did they know about what these things were? Were they there? He said, she said, signature, blah, blah, blah. So I thought, wouldn't it be amazing if you could have, if everyone had a wallet, basically, that's they kind of sign up for and it's registered to them. And then they have, someone creates the document on a device, they share that document with everybody, and everyone scans a QR, and basically that's their signing of the document. And then you take a hash of that document and you upload it to some server that could be centralized or a version of IPFS or whatever. You upload a hash of that document to the blockchain, and now if you ever, basically becomes your document hierarchy, your document record system could be on chain, and everyone signed it with their particular phone or whatever their device. That's their signature. So you don't have to worry about actually writing your John Hancock on a piece of paper. So that was the idea, and I created a pitch for it. I somehow I reached out to Blockstart, Ramon Blindesh, and he was a really nice guy. Obviously, no one knew who I was then at all, and but he still took a half hour and spoke with me. And I was like, oh, we could do a token, and then we almost like voices tokenomics, where the token would be issued for people for using the platform, but then advertisers who want to advertise on this platform, like it's a web app or whatever, they would have to then buy the tokens, and they burn the tokens essentially, so it creates a market for the token. Totally ripping off what Voice was going to do, what we thought it was going to do. But he's like, don't do tokens, skip the tokens. It's just adds complexity. It's a good idea for a mutable database, making use of blockchain, that makes sense. But try to like cut out the tokens. And he totally spent time like trying to help me curate the idea. He said it'd be, 50-ish grand to try to get a basic MVP coded. So I thought it was pretty cool. I dropped it at that point. I'd submitted it to Block One. I sent my pitch deck to Block One. Didn't hear sweet fuck all, so they weren't interested in my idea. But now, in light of today, I could revitalize that project and turn it into a Pomelo pitch or an Eden pitch.
Yeah, that's cool.
Tangential.
John, I just want to ask John one more question. I mean, I asked him to come on here. I don't want to take too much of his time. I heard you. I remember you mentioned like you believe that EOS needs a cloud wallet. Do I remember that correctly?
Yeah, that's part of my proposal, like a long-term part of it.
Okay. Have you looked into the Wombat wallet?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Is that not a cloud wallet?
It is, but in my opinion, they haven't gone all the way with it. They haven't done it, in my opinion, they haven't done it properly.
I think the version that when we mentioned cloud wallets, so sorry to barge in. Like,
welcome.
hi, everyone.
Of course. Hey.
hi guys. I think when we mentioned it, when we talk about a cloud wallet, we're mentioning specifically the social / email onboarding that Wax provides with their cloud wallet. So what we refer to is login with your Google account, login with Facebook, login however you log into other platforms, non-crypto, and use the EOS blockchain with that account. That's the cloud wallet we should strive for, because what we want to do with that wallet.
That's Wombat.
Well, I just downloaded Wombat mobile. I haven't had the web experience for Wombat.
Yeah,
but
I mean,
maybe
just
that's how it works.
As a quick example, like to use Wombat on desktop, you have to install an extension. You can't just log in the browser without installing anything. So that's just a quick example. But Aaron just dropped in, and me and him were talking earlier today. I would really like Aaron to talk about his reasons that he hasn't proposed anything for Eden yet and things like that.
Is that sorry, I just jumped in, so I don't even know what like the topic of the conversation is about.
Aaron's here. Go,
yeah, I came in.
We're just going on about wallets. Nothing you would know about. A thing or two.
Nothing. No, but what you guys were just saying too, I think is a key definition for what defines a cloud wallet. It's that you don't have to install anything, and you can log in using some arbitrary credentials of some kind. The other big point of this is that they are always custodial in some form as well, which adds a lot of regulatory hurdles if you are going to be the one operating that. So you pulled me in to talk about our side of things. Sorry, I just came out of some work and I'm kind of blindsided by jumping in.
Yeah, I just, I mean, well, you were saying in our conversation, you were just talking about, the reasons why you guys haven't proposed anything for the Eden
Got
trials.
it.
And I was kind of telling you, like, don't worry about it. Like, we can be flexible. Like, let's figure out something that's going to work. So I think you should air your concerns
Sure.
to all the people that want to solve the problem and move things forward.
Absolutely. So I guess to put some perspective on what we have been doing, we've been looking for a couple weeks now at what we would pitch as our product. If we were running in Eden and like, this is what we think the community should do, this is what we think we should fund. And where we've kind of landed right now on the most immediate thing based on even, I think a lot of what spurred this is what John posted about these needs for, we need this easy onboarding solution. We need an easy account management and ways to pull people into EOS. So I reached out to him and that's what started this conversation, because that's what we're trying to do with our web wallet right now. It is not a cloud wallet at this point, but we are driving towards trying to create a solution that is similar to what a cloud wallet would offer. But anyways, we've been trying to formulate a pitch to that. But I think right now my concerns about pitching it are just that I am trying to make this too perfect. And I'm also concerned with like the amount of effort it would pull away from our tiny team to actually work on this for the amount of funding we would receive. I guess that's a good question to put out, and you guys are probably more aware than I am, just because I've been in my coding cave for the last month or so. What is the initial funding look like for these upcoming rounds?
If we get to roughly 250 Eden members by October 4th, it'll be another 50,000 EOS. So there'll be 250,000 EOS in the treasury.
Right.
5% of that gets pulled per month. So the first month would see 12,500 EOS pulled.
And how long is the term?
Great question. Initially it looked like it should be 6 months, but
okay.
There was a comment from Eve that I can't recall if it was in Telegram or if it was in one of these where he chatted it. I think it was in one of these, in fact, where he chatted it. And he said that they were looking at maybe having this first election only have a 3-month window until the next election.
All right.
Haven't heard anything about that.
Yeah,
So,
it's going to be 6 months. It's going to be 6 months.
Hopefully.
So
I guess, but even so, it's a 20-month runway for the funds at 5% a month.
Well, yeah, that's assuming it isn't replenished, right? So 5, but it,
right.
yeah. So
but you have to win again, though.
Well, exactly. So just to complete that, so basically, yeah, the duration of election, say it's 6 months, you'll get. So the winner who's randomly picked will get 4,500-ish EOS per month, but then the next layer down, the board, the chief delegates, we don't know how many of those are going to be. It could be upwards of 12. Ami was looking at the code, and he thought it might have been something like 12 people. So it's going to be different how the hierarchy works and how the political. So depending on how many are in that group, you only get 1/3 of 12,500. So you get 4,500 EOS split amongst those people. We don't know how many they are. So it could be 300 EOS a month, 500 EOS a month, right? So that's where it's a bit unknowns.
And I think to loop this back, the conversations that I was talking about with John was, right now what we're doing is we're weighing that amount of rewards, which, today's price, that's roughly what, 16, 17,000 USD a month for 3 to 6 months. So $50,000 to $100,000. And that's if it all went to this one project, should that project win.
Randomly.
Weighing that amount of potential, like that windfall, like we could probably hire a developer for that, maybe 2 for that short amount of time, and then deal with the onboarding and all that other stuff, and pull them in to, make this project a reality. And like, I obviously haven't really talked a lot in detail about the project, but I'm more just thinking the logistics of it. Weighing that amount of time to A, create the pitch, B, participate in the election, campaigning, all of that other stuff, and then all of the kind of involvement afterwards that a winner or somebody towards the top would be expecting. So taking all of that effort into account for that amount of money, is that worth doing, or is it worth just continuing to work on the project?
I think your better bet is a Pomelo pitch.
Potentially. And those are, it's hard because it's like, does Eden fit this type of project at this point is the question I'm trying to answer.
Right.
And I guess, yeah.
No,
I'm a little
I don't
scattered,
think,
but
personally, no, I see where you're going, Aaron. I think, personally, I think Eden, at this point in time, is not going to be the best platform for us to push out like big and intensive projects such as a cloud wallet, such as what we're building with Eos Starter, right? We want to fund projects and kickstart them. Something very, very big like crossing, IBC, multi-chain liquidities, EVM compatibility. Those projects are huge, right? They required a lot of dev power and a lot of thinking and a lot of debugging and security audits and whatnot. So I don't see those coming together during Eden elections. What I do think is that a lot of Eden, a lot of if we come out with a good outcome with these elections, a lot of the people that move forward are going to have this initiatives in mind. This major the initiatives that can make the most impact for EOS, right? Ideally, would have much more spotlight if I'm championing that specific project that has a big impact than if I'm just if my goal with the EOS that I'm gonna earn is try to create a lot of Twitter raids and pay a lot of shield bots in Twitter or on YouTube to pump EOS, right? That would probably ideally that would get me less ahead. Like for example, like Chris just had a great run in the first election, just to take an example, because he championed a project that's like critical for making the current EOS UX possible, right? Like Flow, which is the EOS Power Up with John, and we have John here. So that's an example of like a good outcome, right? It's an important project for us. It's something that's moving us forward, and then that people that the result of a good election is that good projects get the spotlight, but they won't get the concentrated funding through Eden that a project like a cloud wallet or a proper incubator like we're building, those things are. And I don't think Eden is going to be the spotlight, but it would be great to see good candidates champion those projects. I don't know how that will turn into support for the projects itself, but I could say, for example, I pledged to donate, if I move forward, all the EOS that or 50% of the EOS that I'll be receiving to whatever proposal Greymass puts out for the cloud wallet on Pomelo, if I know that that's coming. But it's kind of a chicken and egg, because I don't know if you guys are putting it up, but some sort of that can work some magic into the best projects really just getting priority.
Yeah. And I think to put a little perspective on it, like if I, like 5-6 years ago, whatever it was, back when I was a Steam witness and, I was a solo at that point and just running projects, if something like Eden existed for a solo dev like that, I would be absolutely all over this. That's meaningful money for a solo developer to push ahead small initiatives that they themselves can handle, maybe with a little bit of external help. But at this point in time, it's like the projects we look at and the projects that we're talking about here, like a cloud wallet, are all they're they're so big that they almost don't fit within the scope of what we can enable with Eden today.
Yeah. And so a couple things that I think are worth reflecting on. When we were first learned about Eden 6 months ago, initially the talk of funding was RAM fees, name fees, 2% inflation. So basically everything the foundation, everything the foundation now has was all initially sort of propositioned as being part of Eden. So just interestingly to reflect on the numbers, had Eden received the name fees and RAM fees, about 3.4 million EOS, that would turn into 170,000 EOS a month for this first election. So 56,000 EOS for the winner. That makes a difference. Now, okay,
right,
56,000 EOS, even for 3 months, that might be plenty to accomplish what you're talking about. So I think what we've run into is now the funding is nothing like what we originally thought. And so with that, we have to now pull back on some of the potentiality that could come out of these elections in terms of projects, because the duration of an election is too short between elections, and it's not enough funding now. So we're still now kind of back to the mentality that led to the quick win in the first two trial elections. Was it's not a lot of money. We can't even really split it up a whole lot and accomplish anything. So let's just dial in on one thing that would be simple to accomplish. So for what you're talking about, Aaron, to me, that this idea of a cloud wallet that is like an infrastructure type thing, and if it's not really meant to be monetized, then that should be the foundation. And I know the foundation has seems like the response to this, you guys should fund X or fund Y. The response has been that's what Eden and Pomelo are for. If that's the case, then they're sitting on 3.1 million EOS that's going to go to the Pomelo because it hasn't come to Eden yet. So where's it going to go? I mean, yeah, I guess there's 30,000 or 30 grants coming, and we don't know what the denomination of those are going to be. But I think we should maybe consider petitioning the foundation to do a little more than what they've suggested they're going to do. And if they want to just rely on Pomelo and Eden to get things done, then they're going to have to fund Eden with more if they want Eden to be a place for this capital to get deployed.
And I don't think that's off the table. Obviously, I, in any capacity, am just an advisor with the foundation. Yeah. But I think the way to look at it is that this is the start of it, and we can't necessarily start with massive crazy New Deal works projects. Even though that's, I think, what we all look at and we're like, this is what we need.
It's what we need, right?
Yeah, but it's trying to figure out what we can fit inside this box right now.
Yeah.
And I think that's been the hardest part for me personally, as somebody trying to come up with something to pitch.
I think Pomelo is going to be the best opportunity to see something like a bigger work come out of, because what you could do is you could have what will happen in Eden is you're going to get this first round of people, and there'll be quite a few of them that aren't going to get a whole lot at all. And so even this past trial election, there were 16-ish people, I think, would be another 12 people that received 10 EOS. What do they do with it? So all those 10 EOS, if they all kind of got together and put that all as independent donations towards a Pomelo quadratic matched funding project, that could then amplify it. So this is where the pitch could be, this is where you could still present your idea, Aaron, and say, this is the funding requirements to make this happen. It's outside of the scope of Eden. However, if you're going to run and you only make it to that first round, maybe you could consider supporting a Pomelo. Pomelo's not live, so again, chicken and egg, hard to suggest that. But at least it's something where if you had these unique, because the other thing is Eden members have this trustee score benefit that Daniel Keyes has mentioned, that because we're already sort of civil protected and we're real people, then our donations within Eden within Pomelo will have more value. So it's one option, but it's not ideal.
Yeah, I think that just my takeaway right now from this conversation is that during this first election, one of the most important things to evaluate is whether an idea is going to be too big. Because that won't reflect well on Eden if Eden pushes forward ideas that just can't be delivered within the scope that's possible.
And this is where I think project managers of sorts, aggregators of ideas, what I've kind of done and talked about doing, right? Where it's like, I will pitch all these ideas. If I get funded, I will then project manage and help distribute the funds and keep tabs and do all that. Then if you do that, but it's risk though, because everyone will be like, okay, that sounds great. You do well in this next election. People start working on their projects, but it's going to take more than just one election to get this done. Some of these projects are bigger. There's not enough funding anyway, so you're going to need to stretch it out in order to make the funding work. And then you don't get in the next election. That project manager doesn't make it. And then what happens to these projects? They just die. And that would be the worst look ever for Eden, is you get part way with a project or a series of projects, and then because the election somehow doesn't go a certain way due to the randomness of the matchups, and Dan ends up against the previous project manager, and Dan goes through, then what happens? They just those projects stop getting work done. They sit idly by. You transition to a Pomelo pitch. So we lost our funding, but hey, Pomelo, we need some money, everybody.
Yeah, no, that's an excellent point. I mean, what I brought up with making sure that the money can cover it, but also make sure that it can be completed within that one cycle of an election, because it's not going to look good if it doesn't.
No. But on the bright side, the Eden community is small. So of the 78 people that were signed up for the election as of this morning, I think most of those 78 know everyone else kind of. So if the campaigner or the aggregator the various people who are going to try to pitch themselves as being, I'm going to do these multiple projects, they should know about them all. So hopefully, okay, you're still covering a project that I was thinking about. So maybe you get in a room and you're like, I'll just take your project on as well. But then the aggregator who's going to just take people's projects, eventually you're slicing up this potential pie. You only make it to the chief delegate round. You don't win the sortition. And now it's like you've taken these ideas and you can't fund any of them sufficiently because it's just not enough. Then you got to pick what you're funding and you're making enemies. It's tricky. No good answer. I think, but bottom line, Aaron, I think Pomelo would be, if the foundation isn't going to step up to support a cloud wallet type of project, then Pomelo would be certainly a place where you could probably make it happen.
Yeah, it's just a matter of like the timelines on Pomelo too. It's like we have no idea when Pomelo is launching.
Right.
So
how long do we wait?
How long do people hang around and wait for this kind of stuff?
Yeah. What the hell, Eos Foundation? You're centralized. Fast. Let's get the money out there. It's coming. Yeah, these are all great questions. I mean, I guess it's a good place to be. At least we're talking about how can we build, and as opposed to 3 months ago or pre-Eden.
Yeah.
Wasn't even a twinkle in anyone's eye.
I think Zach said from the EOS Foundation they want to do like a drip campaign for the grants to have a steady stream of like for marketing considerations, to be on the wire like every week per se.
Yeah, I see his point. Can't you announce it all at once and then do updates every week about progress? Because the other
That's
thing,
not how they want to do it.
Yeah, well, the downside is now we're kind of stuck. I don't know. We should confirm exactly what he means by that, because if you've got 30 projects that are 30 projects getting funding, we all know this, and someone wants to now pitch in Eden, are they going to be? Is it duplicative of what also got funded? Are we now the same situation where we're block one surely will do it, so I won't bother? So
yeah, we're in that situation.
Yeah, kind of. So maybe that's not exactly what he meant. I don't know. It'd be worth confirming on the Telegram. They're gonna. I guess we're expecting some sort of announcement soon. So surely we'll see what that announcement looks like. And if it's just one project, then I guess I answered it, and we can push a bit. Even if it's just a rough description of what the other ones are without giving away all the details, would be enough to at least help others not waste time. Maybe as an advisor, Aaron, that's something that you're able to take from this call back to that group.
Yeah, Yeah, I think I may have expressed similar ideas already, and I can kind of reinforce that a little bit. So
Sure.
I'll see what I can do. I am not involved at all in any of these communications type things, so I'm
Right.
trying not to say anything I may know in privilege. I have no
Understood.
idea. We're all figuring this out too, so I just don't want to step on any toes.
Nope. Yeah. Understood. And especially from the advisor piece, like obviously you guys each come at it with your respective specialty that you can then advise about, right? That's typically how advisors work. So it's not, you wouldn't be expected to also have a super strong opinion on how the marketing's supposed to go for this, right? It's not really probably why you're there.
Yeah, and honestly, I don't
Also-
have the time to keep up. So
Yeah.
Something else to keep in mind, that it's not 100% sure that this is going to be the amount of funding. We could have more. I know Dan had said, but so it's possible. I'm just saying, like,
Right.
we're not there yet. So let's, but I understand, like, Aaron, like this, you're trying to like plan whether you should allocate hours to this, and it's so unknown that it must be very difficult.
yeah, it's hard to balance when you only have like an incredibly finite amount of resources as it is. You know, it's where do we put people? And ultimately, I think once, like, we have a pretty grand vision about where we want to take things when it comes to wallets and onboarding and user experience. And it's how far do we veer off of our current trajectory to try to accelerate it? It's difficult.
Yeah, you have limited resources. You can only stretch yourself so thin. One must sleep once in a while.
True. It's
right?
true.
And enjoy life a little bit.
I was trying to work on Anchor, and then somebody got some support message about Anchor, and then you guys were like, hey, join us. So it's just been all over today.
Yeah, well, don't feel any pressure to hang around, Aaron. You know, if you got to jump off and stretch your legs, we appreciate you popping on, but don't feel like you need to stick around.
Yeah, thanks for
sure.
Anchor. Anchor's amazing. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm so happy that it's serving so many people well. I mean, there's tens of thousands of users. Like, we have no idea how many, but we do know that there are like something like 1 million requests that come through every week through Anchor. So it's helping power EOS.
Absolutely. And it's only going to build up. And as more, I think before you joined, we were talking about how we still yet to really see this sort of mass proliferation and adoption of blockchain. Like, people still aren't using it in their data. Like, we're still so early in the stage. And then I told a little story about a health and safety app that I wanted to make that could document hashes basically on the ends. But using Anchor, it was sort of like when I'm using Anchor and I scan my computer screen and I sign on my phone, it's like, that's amazing. Like, this is now I can do a signature without actually signing something. I can do a legitimate signature with my biometrics that would probably hold up in a court of law. So it's pretty, I mean, the applications are pretty broad. So
yeah, it's just getting you into that to begin with. Like, for an average user, that's the hard part right now. So hopefully we will have some ways to make that easier in the not too distant future.
Yeah, man. Yeah, well, it's coming. And then we know, I mean, obviously, I think you don't have to speak to this, but from what I can gather, it seems like a shoo-in that you guys are going to be recipients of some of these early grants. I mean, my jaw would drop if I saw that Grey Mouse was on that list. No comment required from you, Aaron. And what you were saying, Jesse, that maybe, because Dan, you were referencing earlier that there might be more funding in this election than we know about, and that's true. Anything's possible, because Dan did do what looked like a joke in the Eden members telegram about maybe B1 will drop in 1 million EOS or something. And all I can say to that is, if this stuff
Dan doesn't joke like that.
I don't know Dan well enough to know if he does or doesn't, so I don't know. But if it isn't a joke, then it's not doing anyone any service by delaying the announcement. That's all. Because if there is more funding coming, then people will then create more pitches. And exactly what Aaron just spoke about, that might change. If what I brought up earlier, if it was 56,000 EOS for the winner and I don't know, 8,000 EOS a month for the chief delegates, even the chief delegates could actually do a sizable project if we had received the RAM and the RAM fees and name fees all at once.
Yeah.
So, right. So we're not there. So if the more funding is coming to put us there, shit, let's see it. So then people can plan and beef up their proposals in advance of the election, not on the day of.
Yeah, I think my takeaway so far has been that it's really hard to plan to pitch anything when you have no idea what's possible with what's going to be there, you know?
Yeah.
Like if Block 1 is actually going to do something, like them delaying anything is not helping anyone in the process.
No. And maybe the answer is exactly what you've said, where your gut seems to be on this right now, and that is this first election isn't the election for some huge work project that's going to require more than 3 months to get completed and more than the funding that's available. And that just people shouldn't overextend to those types of projects maybe quite yet. And let's think about refine the scope for smaller stuff that is easier to implement, like EOS Bs, like EOS support. Those are and probably John, you still on? Yeah, he's on. Yeah, John. Like I don't know, I can't recall what the funding requirement was for yours, but it sounds like that's not as arduous to try to make happen. But anyway, to be determined.
Yeah,
some of that.
I would also say. Oh, sorry.
I didn't fill in the funding part. I didn't fill in yet.
Okay.
And on the comment about is it a joke or not? I mean, we you just have to assume everything is a joke, to be honest, at this point.
Right.
This is the default assumption. Okay. Everything is a joke until there's something in writing, like for real.
Until it's on chain.
Yeah.
That's definitely the healthier way to look at it.
That's what history has taught us, I suppose, is John's point. History has taught us that if we've looked at all these comments in the past about what we thought might happen, turns out it didn't happen. So we should have just treated it like a joke back then and not get our hopes up. So let's do that going forward.
Yeah. And to fall back on one thing you just said at the end there, making sure that projects can get completed in the time scope and that they don't have ongoing maintenance is going to be a big thing, and that they're not going to need like tremendous amounts of support moving forward. Because one thing, like if you can actually build this great project in 3 months and you meet the budget, like what happens after that 3 months if your project is no longer being supported by Eden? If it is not self-sufficient, does it stop being developed, stop getting updates, and eventually become useless? That is definitely one thing to keep in mind when participating in the process and making sure that, this thing has a future moving forward, and what we just spent 3 or 6 months building isn't going to go to waste in the next 6 months. There's long-term EOS needs really good, like just stability and support.
100%. Yeah. If people are going to create projects that are just common goods, social goods, and there's no way to monetize and to create revenue and income, then that can pay for its ongoing support, then it's, I don't know. Yeah, it's risky.
And the people, like, I mean, look at Scatter is the perfect example. How many years of that being kind of the de facto and them doing amazing things, but then when the team could no longer support themselves, they moved on to a different project, and now it's like they opened it up and said, hey, community, we want you to come help build this thing and keep it running and, keep this project alive, but it lost all steam and hasn't seen development since. Well, much.
Yeah, well, the core team's not working on it.
Yeah.
So exactly. That'll happen over and over and over again. And well, it won't, in fact, because people won't bother. Like I think this is, people look at that as an example, be like, oh, I'm not gonna try to create this thing for nothing, for free, except for maybe a few of us who messed around with Eden here who haven't got paid anything. I guess we're suckers for punishment. But it's like, it's going to be, there'll be very few people who are going to try to build a project of sorts with no eventually the community will come around, or eventually Block One or eventually the foundation will see the value in this and fund it. It's like, nah, not too many people are going to take that risk. So, but again, as Eden moves on, we have our first election, and we get some consistency behind us. Then maybe, because the other thing that comes up is this idea of functions, core functions within Eden, and I think Jesse or John, you were talking about this, where does everything get wiped? Does the slate get wiped clean between each election, or do some people, I guess kind of like myself, case example, and Josh, right, were pretty present and putting a lot of time and effort in. If this was like some sort of foundation, there'd be a paid job to do this, but in order for you to pay a job, do you have to win an election every time to get paid? And so there's certainly a risky job if that's how you get paid. Or is there this like kind of core funding piece, like any sort of not-profit type of, they have the core funding that pays for this administrative type of roles that keeps things running and keeps it organized. That was the idea kind of behind this framework, this holacracy framework idea, is to create potentially these core roles that help keep this thing moving forward and help organize it, centralized fashion. But who does it? What do they do it for? And is it dependent on each individual election? And what if they just get an unlucky matchup and they're kicked out? Not kicked out, but they'd lose their funding for what they're doing. These are yet to be solved.
Big grand experiment. That's for sure.
Big experiment. A couple comments. We've got Nils was saying Anchor is amazing, really fast. I want to personally thank Aaron, and that thanks to him today we have a way to access our EOS account. Great job. And then Nova Crypto also mentioned eospowerup.io by John. Nils agrees, +1. Nova Crypto, expect anything from anyone, but at a point to synergize. It's best, right? Exactly, right, Patrick? When things can collaborate to synergize, we get more out of it. It's the whole 1 + 1 can equal 3 if we're pushing in the same direction. That's what you're speaking to, right? And Nils wrote, it would be absurd if within this ecosystem and current stage, we did not support all the projects within EOS. It is absurd because then they just leave and they're no longer a part of EOS, right? We should not see enemies in anyone, even if they do something similar to what we are personally developing. Yeah, it's not that it's the overlap that sucks. It's not adversarial development of projects that I'm speaking to, Nils. It's more if you're going to work on something, but you realize someone else is doing it already. So now you're it's not you're fighting, but it's redundant. So it's kind of a waste of effort. It'd be better to collaborate to build something together that's better, or one team would tweak somehow to create something different and unique. So there's not this competitive nature, which isn't bad. Competition's good, but it'd be nice if we could work on both, like 2 projects could work on something beneficial and not have to compete. And then Nova Crypto wrote, I see this next election as a trial to have more data on projects. No enemies, only synergies. Yeah, that's, I think, what we need to keep in mind. This is just yet another almost trial election, just far more funding. And we actually get to use the Eden OS software, which changed the whole dynamic of the election. So that's pretty awesome. And hey, Jesse, you're back.
Hey.
I was kind of realizing I'm the only one with the camera on. Come on, people. Can't just look at me.
Nils is here.
Easier now, yeah, exactly. So yeah, treat this like a trial. Hopefully some quick winish type stuff comes through. We'll learn a lot about the chief delegates and how many. We still don't know. Like, there's still things we just don't know that I think it'd be nice to know. How many chief delegates is the goal. I think when Ami was looking at the numbers in terms of entrance, he said between 44 and like 200 and something participants, you still only have 3 rounds or 3 layers. You have the winning layer, first round. So you have the first round of people. They move on to layer 1. They battle to go to layer 2 and sortition winner. That's it. Just those 3 layers that receive funds, up to like 200 and something participants. So that's where we're going to be sitting for this next election, surely. And but we don't know how many sit on that final chief delegate round. 8, 12. He was thinking it was 12. He thought he saw 12, but he was going to double check the way the code was written.
But doesn't it depend on the amount of participants in the election?
It does, but he was saying the way when it jumps, and it jumps based on how many members. So between 0 and 12
Right,
members,
right.
there's one round.
Yeah.
Between 12 and I thought it was like 44 or 48, then there's 2 rounds, and then it was 48 to, I think it was multiples of 4. It's like 200 something or maybe 180 something. There's 3 rounds. The next one, then you have 4 rounds. So we would be in the range of the 3 round, which is the same as what the 2 trials were. But what's different is I don't think we'll have just 4 people in the final chief delegate role. It sounds like, and he thought it was 12 because up to 12 there, so that 12 number was sort of there, and that's where he thinks that's the chief delegate size that he's shooting for, but he wanted to double check. It'd be a good question for perhaps to throw at Fancher or Mike Manfredi on one of the Clarion updates. We could probably ask that.
Yeah. We'll ask him.
Yeah. Sorry, but it's so how long? 3 weeks? Under 3 weeks now till the election. Shit, I
Yeah.
got a long list of things I wanted to do prior to that. Uh-oh. Get to work. I want to do a post on questions to ask. So for people who want to participate and don't, like, my wife's a great example. So I'm going to invite her this week at some point, and she's like, she kind of wants to participate just to see, but she's nervous because she might not know what would be good questions to ask because she's just not technically savvy enough. So she could ask business related questions, as most people could, but when it comes to the specifics of EOS and you have 2 different technical people pitching projects, it might be tough to distinguish. This is what John Williamson was talking about before, about how the uneducated, untechnical person wouldn't necessarily know what they're voting for. But if we can create a series of questions that are like, ask these questions and do you get reasonable answers, then that might help people want to participate. Let's see. Nova Crypto wrote a few things here. Let me get through this. So hold on, let me make this bigger. Nova said, I see the next election. Oh yeah, I read that already. No more enemies, only centuries. The core mission of the EOS Foundation is to enable developers, businesses, and individuals to build on EOS. Yeah, I've read that as well. That's definitely what they've written. By leveraging the assets placed under its stewardship, under the guidance and support of the board. Okay, and he wrote here, this must be, I think, from one of their Medium articles. The board of advisors will be responsible for reviewing grant and sponsorship proposals brought forth by the core as a means of providing guidance and transparency to the decision-making process. So I guess that's in order to, just for those who don't know, so the core is currently just 3 people. Core is Eve, Zach, and Defang. And so that's core, the foundation core. And the way this is written is the core, those 3 guys would bring forth proposals for reviewing grants and sponsorship proposals to the advisors, which I think 7 or 8 advisors, one of which is Aaron. And then he wrote here, so in the future, the EOS Foundation also plans to allocate resources directly to new initiatives, which will be able to be formally proposed with an action plan, deliverables, milestones, and KPIs to both the foundation and the EOS community via Pomelo's community-driven crowdfunding platform. So that is interesting, right? So basically you submit something to Pomelo, and then will the foundation fund you outside of the Pomelo platform itself? Or are they only going to provide funding to Pomelo, and then whoever gets funding from there gets it? That'd be curious to see. Eve did comment quite clearly that they are not looking to receive proposals directly. So I guess that's maybe vetting or filtering it through Pomelo first is the point. Oh, he wrote more here. The EOS, I just started talking before it was done. The EOS Foundation will not only participate as a Pomelo grant matching partner while leveraging its quadratic voting formula, but will also use the platform to help identify further opportunities for potential direct funding and or sponsorships. There you go. Where did that, that was from a tweet? Thank you, Patrick. That's interesting if they're going to do that then. So there you go, Aaron. You would submit a bigger thing to Pomelo, and then we would all see, including the foundation, they would see the merit of the proposal, which I'm sure would be fantastic, how much you actually get from the Pomelo platform itself, and then assess whether there's a need for more. Like say you don't get enough, like you'd probably hope we put a budget, like what you're looking to how much funding you need to complete the project. And then if it turns out you don't get that, there just isn't enough participation within EOS to donate. Because the problem with Pomelo is it takes individual people to donate. And so that's, you're limited by people's ability to donate money. So it's, whereas the foundation is limited by the purse that they get from community funds.
Josh has an interesting comment if you want to read it.
I'm starting to feel like successfully coordinating with other Eden members to contribute EOS on Pomelo might just be the most effective thing we can do with the Eden's current treasury. Yeah, I think you're right, Josh. Especially that first round, people who don't get enough anyway to really do anything. So they have to somehow find a way to aggregate to do something meaningful. And
yeah, because just like a boost, all the EOS you get, if you coordinate it into Pomelo, it just gets boosted. So that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, we need to figure out the formula.
Yeah, that would be a good route to go. It's just dependent on Pomelo existing, which doesn't right now. So
yeah,
I mean,
soon,
it needs some form. I'm not trying to say that they're not, working on it, but
yeah. Should be soon TM on that one, because I know they were I think it was like imminent. I thought that they were going to at least have sort of like a beta up for people to play with.
I think they did talk about some sort of beta.
I am very guilty of saying soon and then it being a year later all of a sudden. So I understand the best intentions can't magically solve problems sometimes.
No, just don't use that word.
Yeah.
That's the lesson I've learned. Don't use soon unless you wanted to be a joke about it. Yeah. Doing the best we can. At some point, there will be. And Nova wrote that likely October, November for Pomelo is what he's got here. And then Niels laughed. Josh said, even if it doesn't go live until November, it would still be a worthwhile strategy. Yeah, 100%. Will be Pomelo Playground token. And then Josh saying Eves basically ran on that strategy in the first trial election. Oh, taking, he was going to take funds to add to the winner, essentially, but give it to Pomelo. So, yeah, you're right. It's essentially the same thing. So that's one of the questions. That's one of the questions that people should be asking. That very first round, it should be, okay, what are you going to do if you only get to the next round and you don't get further? What are you going to do with that 100 EOS or whatever it's going to be? And so maybe the answer, hopefully, that people will see what they give, but one of the answers that would be suggested to those who don't have a good answer is Pomelo. They'll look for good projects. They'll look for something that someone will post that's good. Nova Crypto said, see 23rd interview. Yes, we're all 3 days away from the Swiss workshop coming out and an interview with Daniel Keys about Pomelo. Excellent, Patrick. We look forward to that with some details. Nova mode activated. I don't know if you've heard that yet, Patrick. That's our new battle cry if we want to get real serious about something, make something happen. Nova mode. And John also, you had a good lineup this round. You got some. I mean, I'm there too, so it's amazing. Jesse, you're in this recent 10 guests?
Yes.
Yeah, that's some good ones. Nova
gave me my first EOS interview.
Yeah, that's great.
Pop my cherry.
Pop your cherry. How did it feel?
It's a little painful, but eventually, it
was all right. You put some honey on it. I saw Crypto Dunker was your second one, I guess. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, right on.
So it was filmed. It was actually the next day was Crypto Dunker. So the actual filming was first Nova.
Right on. Yeah, good. Yeah, it's a little nervous. I'm still nervous of I don't know. It seems like it should be easy just to be interviewed or whatever, but I don't know. I find it a bit stressful and hard to not go off on tangents, say things you shouldn't say.
Yeah.
Let's talk about politics and vaccines.
I think it went well though.
Yeah, right. Oh yeah, your Crypto Dunker one certainly did. I thought that was a great one.
Yeah, thanks.
The solo screen. So I need to smile more. Nova Crypto, John, 10 guests, 7 interviews. We have the banner, EOS B starting September 26th on eospowerup.io. Oh, yeah, that's right. Good. Excellent.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
Nova Crypto is sponsoring EOS Bees. He is funding a banner on eospowerup.io in right before the Eden election. And so we're very thankful for that. Thank you, Nova Crypto.
Awesome. Awesome. You have a clever little saying or something to be after you use the power up, a little pop-up comes up. I know the Tartiers with Hernan, there was a nice little link after you powered up.
I didn't notice that. I didn't notice that.
Yeah, so when you
That'd be cool.
power up, you get like a notification that it worked essentially, but in that
Right.
it was customized to direct people to the EOS starter website essentially.
Oh, cool.
Are you building? Do you have a site on the go? I assume you probably must be working on something.
No,
No?
I don't really see the point of it right now.
Okay.
The
Yeah.
Korean Hive is very keen on making a site like for the Korean Hive bees, but for the English Hive, we have no interest right now.
Gotcha. Yeah, if there's no real purpose, it creates a funnel, right? If you want to create an ability to draw people and have a central place. So, but
Well, that's the Telegram group.
I was just gonna say, yeah, Telegram does the same thing.
Right.
And if you don't have a ton of information to display, for my proxy, I felt like I needed to have something to at least present information and consolidate the interviews and show the list and blah blah blah. It kind of made more sense.
Yeah, for sure.
Those watching, you should go to edenproxy.org and vote for the Eden proxy. Align your tokens with the EOS community. There. This show has been sponsored by edenproxy.org.
Let's get all the sponsors out of the way. Who else?
I should have done it at the beginning. I'm not good enough at this yet. I need to kick this off with a quick little ad and go into like pure radio announcer voice, so I can get real sponsors as opposed to just shilling my own project that I'm paying myself for this one.
Or they do like the this show is sponsored by no one.
Yeah, that's right.
Because we're not funded yet.
My cat took a picture of my chicken or something. Axel Crows. Right. It's the best chicken name ever. We call them Pip because when they break out of their shell, they pip out. So the one chicken that we hatched the one time, it was just one that made it, and we called him Pip. But then he was like pure white haired, and because they crow, so I called him Axel Crows because he's got like that Axl Rose coif going on, long blonde hair, sort of. It's a
nice,
pretty sweet chicken name. Anyway, he responds to Pip. That's his name. What to say? No crypto.
So those are the scrambled eggs you were having this morning?
Totally.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, from our chickens. Yeah, not him. He's the rooster. He's the big man. Chickens are hilarious. I mean, I don't know. I never had chickens growing up or anything. Didn't grow up on a farm, and I don't live on a farm now. But we could still have some chickens. They're so interesting. Whoever would have thought? They're not overly intelligent, but they have personality and they have like a social structure, and it's pretty neat. Watch them, and they're just kind of funny. Like Pip they're such a big bird. Like he's so like the way they waddle and the way they have like just two stumpy legs. They're just hilarious. I don't know. I really like them. It's like having fish. If you ever had a fish tank, it's kind of like similar to that, where you just kind of watch them interact, especially if you've got a big enough tank where you've got a few fish and not just like a betta fish or a goldfish. That's kind of boring. But when you get cichlids or some of the more interesting or some saltwater fish.
Yeah, continuing off this super off topic, I always wonder about chickens. The chicken thighs have a lot more fat in them than the chicken breasts. I just logically would think that would be the other way around. I never really looked into it, but it just seems weird to me.
Yeah, the dark meat, light meat piece. I don't know. Yeah, You know what I do know is that free range chicken are way more gamey. I tried to eat a chicken that I butchered and eviscerated or whatever, and it was too chickeny. I like the
Really?
factory chickens are just easier, but it was like, yeah, gamey. And so I basically, you take the chicken, slit its throat, whatever, and then you dunk it in hot water, like 150 C or 150 Fahrenheit for like 30 seconds or whatever. And you take it out, you hang it, and you pull all the feathers off. But there's like an odor. There's like a really strong smell. So then don't eat that chicken the same day you did that, because all you can then taste is what you smelt, and
Ugh.
it just wrecked it. Yeah. So lesson learned. I did it once, and now the second time I've done this, I've only taken out 2 chickens and attempted this. I froze the second one, which is still in the freezer. I need to actually
Yeah.
take it out and eat it. It's gonna be freezer burned if I don't.
But it's not good, so just
But
throw it
it is.
away, I guess.
Well, no, it is good. That's the thing. I just think it's healthier. It's better. Like
Oh, I see.
like
Right.
these chickens are like it's like they run around and they eat worms and like insects, and like it's a better chicken for sure than like the factory farm type. But it's just more gamey. So you get to like brine it maybe, or just don't eat it the same day you finish smelling it for an hour trying to pluck all its feathers out. So I think and bottom line for me, it was just like a homesteader, could I survive off my property thing. So let's see if I can learn how to eviscerate a chicken. It's not so bad. It's kind of gross. Super gross, in fact.
Yeah, I've never smelled anything like that, so I wouldn't know, thankfully.
No. Yeah. You're not living on a farm doing
No.
lots of time vegetable gardening.
No, I'm a city guy.
Yeah. I'm too nervous being in a city. I lived in Toronto for a while, and I've always been a prepper for some. I don't know. I was born I was when I was like 6 years old. I had a little box under my bed of like snare wires, and if I ever needed my own little bug out bag in case I ran away from home or whatever, I was all ready to go. So yeah. So I can never. The city just didn't feel right in terms of being able to escape a zombie apocalypse if the supply chains dried up. So I've always sort of had an
Oh, definitely
inclination
not.
to move to the country.
Yeah.
Go vegan, says Seth. I tried, dude. I did vegan for 7 days or 9 days. It's like 7 or 9 days. I totally tried it. I watched that Netflix show that had me convinced. The narrative was so compelling that I'm like, oh, it makes total sense. Have you ever seen an ox eat meat? Look how strong an ox is. I was like, it's totally logical.
If it's not enough days, Chris, 7 to 9 days is not enough to try a new diet.
What are you talking about? I felt like super shit. I was exhausted, man. I could not. I was like 4:30 in the afternoon, normal sleep, but I was like practically falling asleep driving. It felt like I was so out of energy. I could not. I was not able to sustain it. I went back to eating protein, and then I learned that there's a lot of things that video was totally wrong about, and that that our stomachs are different. So of course, ox don't eat meat, and we've got certain enzymes and the ability, and our stomach acid's different, and our blood pH, and there's all these other things that weren't mentioned, that basically that Netflix was compelling narrative, but it wasn't scientifically holistic. So I was told. I didn't really. I mean, whatever. I like chickens. Nova Crypto. I was 5 minutes to go to the hospital. I eat steak. It's not a choice soon, you say. That's right, Seth. That's why I've got my own chickens. Trust me, I'm a step ahead of this. I'm not going to processed meat veganism. I'm just going to have my own flock of birds and chipmunks if I have to. Rabbits, apparently, though, no joke. Rabbits are actually, you can get white rabbits and they will breed effectively, as we all know the phrase. But you don't need a lot of space. You can cage them pretty good, and they have reasonable quality of life. And then their meat's actually quite good. Nils, they can't take away my meat or fried foods. It gives me something. Yeah, exactly. Life's too short. Not much meat on rabbits. No, it's true. You're right, Seth. But they reproduce like mad, and so you have more kind of quantity over quality. Yeah. I mean, the quality is still good too, but it's yeah, not a lot of quantity there. So you just have a lot of them. Eos can render burned out. I'm not sure what you mean, Patrick. Yeah. Anyway. Meatless society. No thanks. And besides, chicken's eggs are still good enough anyway. I don't eat meat necessarily, but the chickens are the way to go. Rabbits multiply like transactions on EOS. Yeah, that'd be there's a good meme
It is a good meme.
waiting to happen. Zombies
Let's
too.
let's get Crypto Meme 7 in here. Call
Yeah,
that account.
probably. I'm pretty sure I do. Yeah.
He does a new meme every day, daily memes about EOS. He's great. He's going to be a scout fee.
That's awesome. Yeah, good memes are good for many reasons. Get out the word, especially a good meme can go viral, and then it helps. I wonder with
for
Twitter
sure.
though, like how much of it's just an echo chamber. Crypto Decker mentioned that he sees a lot more EOS action on Twitter, but it's like, is that just within a circle? Like, can you measure it when it's like people who don't normally tweet about EOS start to tweet
Yeah,
about
for sure.
EOS?
No, we're keeping a list. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So if there's like a new influencer that mentions EOS, like over 50,000 follows on an account, we're tracking that and we're seeing new people.
Does it just manual tracking, or is this something that's automated within the platform? Okay.
Manual. Yep.
It's too bad Twitter doesn't do something that's more automated analytics that you can look at, because that's something that could be programmatically put in. You'd have a threshold that you could, a search function, search, okay, followers above this, check out this hash. And then when did they do it, or frequency, or whatever. Like, it'd be pretty neat analytics to have.
Yeah, those analytics, companies offer those analytics for like $100,000 a year.
So it's a racket. So Twitter's not doing it because other people are monetizing that probably pay Twitter. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Oh, love it. Then we need an open source one of those.
Yeah, right. Not if it's on Twitter.
Yeah. Yeah, true enough, eh? Be nice to see something competitive to Twitter that's crypto based.
Oh yeah, I think we're all dying for that.
Yep. I saw a comment from somebody in Telegram that it was someone's working on something that's going to be what voice was.
They already are. So there's a thing called dweb.io. It has a similar auction how they do it. Like you get your profile on the top if you outbid in fungible tokens, but they're taking a different approach. They do different topics. So they have like just for example, like a rock and roll topic, a cartoon topic, and each topic has their own unique fungible coin. These are Bancor people, like super legit developers. dweb.io. I'm not sure if it's going to ever hit traction. I hope it does. It's just such an uphill battle, but it's certainly an interesting product.
A lot of the challenges they face are the same ones, that kind of got us started in this whole industry. Back towards Steam, Steam was trying to be a social media competitor to some of these big giants, and it's just the onboarding experience was really rough. The wallet experience and being able to secure keys was fairly rough because people had to manage these really obscure long private keys. But that's where most of our team got our start, was trying to solve the problems of social media and crypto. And we were like, wallets suck. We need to get involved in this side and solve this problem. So hopefully we can get back to doing this. One of
stuck on wallets still.
Yeah, it's been years. But one of
how complicated wallets are.
One of our developers runs Decentium, which is a decentralized blogging kind of social media thing on EOS. It's never really gotten any traction, and obviously I've pulled all of his attention away to work on Anchor, but yeah, he really hopes to be able to get back to that project someday, and that's kind of what drives him to work on the wallet stuff, is because we want to see stuff like that. We want to see decentralized competitors. And we know that for them to be successful, like despite how their application works, we need a good way for users to get into it.
Well, Aaron, tell him to vote for EOS Bees then.
I can do that.
Is Decemptium, is that something that's publicly visible, or is it
Yeah.
mothballed?
Yeah.
How do you spell it?
Just how it sounds.
I-
DECENTIUM.
Oh, C. I put S's.
Just like decentralized, and then it's the word decentralized turned into like an element, like
Right.
yeah. It's the decentralized element, I think, is where he got the name.
Yeah.
Clever.
So, but it's all on chain. You can log in with Anchor. Greymass used to blog on there all the time when we
Wait,
wrote
what is
blogs.
it? Is it .io?
.org. Yep, there's the link in the chat.
Perfect.
It's super inactive. I mean, it looks like the last post was in like May or something.
Why don't we try to drive more people to this? I didn't even know about
Yeah,
this.
there's also flare.fun. That's a more active, I think they have some money behind that project. They've got some good like marketing materials. Flare.fun. They do $100 worth of crypto for the most liked post every week. That is something that Dario's been trying to pitch a lot, and it's So we got Ponge, Ponge, the pessimistic Chinese person in Eden. He's so pessimistic. I think okay, that's unfair to say. I think that
he's critical and but he comes at it from a constructive view. At least he's got ideas.
I think from his perspective, in the Chinese language, there's really not a lot of products or dApps, and he's just not aware of what's on the English side of the products and dApps that we have. But he claims that EOS has nowhere for users to go. Therefore, we should not do any marketing because there's nowhere to bring them. And I'm like, yeah, that may be true in China. I don't know, but in
your audio dropped out, Jesse.
Yeah, super hard kind of language void with
You're
us
back now.
Chinese.
I think your mics you must have switched to a different mic or something.
Oh, my AirPods died.
There you go. Well, that's an interesting comment. So there's not as much Chinese language. I assume that's the barrier in the end. Language dApps.
I just think that there's less builders, I think, in China than the Western world. I think from China are the users, perhaps. I don't know. This is just kind of my gut. And we build things in the West, and then it gets most used in the East. Kind of seems
interesting, or more investors maybe, in terms of like really what's going on. Dario wrote discussions.app, bbsnetwork.io, challenge.dap.io, dweb.io, which is DEWEB.io.
Yeah, that's what I was saying before by the Bangor guys. That's dweb.
Everpedia.org, predict.com, yep.io, SenseChat. Maybe these dApps just haven't added the Chinese language. Just have to add the Chinese language. Yeah. Maybe you're right, Dario.
Right.
And maybe this is another.
But there's also a firewall issue, not just the language.
Yeah, true that. Yeah. But maybe that's another good potential use of Eden, where it might be low-hanging fruit to just add translations to some existing things to then open up to other markets.
No.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, sorry, not for China, I don't think, because of the firewall, but yeah, other languages for sure.
I know we still have yet to translate our stuff. And I think another part of the divide that we see right now between apps in the East and the West is that a lot of the wallets that the East uses are still all based on scatter, and they use different protocols, and they haven't updated to, not that they haven't updated, but they they don't support, like there's a divide in the wallets. You'll see MyKey and Token Pocket being huge in the East, and then in the West you have Wombat and Anchor.
Yeah.
So they're not always compatible, and somebody with one wallet can't log into another thing, and it's a disorganized mess.
Yeah, it's not ideal, no doubt.
We'll get there.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and that sounds like a good foundation, EOS Foundation thing, where
Yep.
and because even the core Defang, he's from the East, and then on the actual the board, or the board, I guess it's called, they a lot of East people. So hopefully there's some sort of effort around consolidating exactly you're there, and so you'll get a chance to at least express that point, right? To let's consolidate around one standard.
That's standards in general are something that I really want to push. You see it in things like Ethereum. You have Web3, and that's just the standard on how you build these applications that use Ethereum. And we don't have that. We are, for better or worse, more decentralized in that aspect. We don't have the central authority leading and saying this is the way to do things. Yeah.
It's been holding us back.
I agree.
But that can change, and it will change.
Yeah,
it will change. I mean, the wheels are in motion. It's just a matter of time at this point, and patience, and hopefully some collaboration in terms of people at Eden can see what's coming out of the foundation, so then we can at least, what holes still exist.
Yeah, I really think Eden's going to be a place to help surface new things, whereas the foundation's kind of looking at old things, if that makes any sense.
It does, yeah, it does, and it's been communicated as such. I think that the way the wording on when Eve announced the 30 grant recipients that are upcoming, it sounded like it was, I forget the term he used, but it was previous work done is how it was framed. It wasn't like brand new initiatives coming out. It was like supporting teams that have been already here doing a bunch of stuff, and now it's recognition. I think, was that what it was? Recognition grants.
Yeah, I think so.
I think that was the term. Yeah, it wasn't reparation. That would be a bad word probably, but it was recognition, I think is what he said. So that presupposes older stuff to be recognized. But stages. I think this first election is going to be super interesting. It'll be really interesting to see who, selfishly, I'm curious how well I'll do again, if my luck will run out or not. I'm sure he's probably thinking the same thing about himself. He's been also 2 for 2.
It'll be interesting, because I mean, like personally, if we do decide to pitch something and run on something, like pick a small piece of something and run with it, I think there's going to be people that are running that want to be continuously involved, and then there's probably people like us who don't have the time that someone like you has to be this involved. And like personally, if I were running, I don't necessarily want to take on that additional responsibility of helping govern Eden as a whole. It's like, I think my time's better spent like building these things that we're running on.
100%.
So
hopefully of the chief delegates, there's more than 4. We know that for sure. So maybe there's 10. Say it lands on 10 or something. Ideally, you don't need all of them to be as active or as accessible, I guess is the term, to the rest of the community as I am. But as long as one of them is, that can basically, right, that'd be sufficient to sort of maybe cover the need. And I do those weekly board meetings. We still haven't done ours this week. Josh, you're gone. Hopefully tomorrow we'll do it. But those types of meetings, like someone just needs to take the time to get everybody together to do that. And ideally, not everyone is putting that together. Just one of them has to then make it successful and be transparent in that manner. So
yeah.
But then I was
gonna say, hopefully if funding is meaningful enough, like even if like you could run on that as something Eden related, like you end up in whatever the tier below it is, and that's sufficient enough money to like pay you to be able to do that, and then be able to also utilize those funds to do other things on top of it. It's just reaching that point.
Yeah, it's getting to the point where it's sufficient that you can have multiple people winning and then able to execute with enough funds.
Yeah, as opposed to just outputting one individual little project, you know?
Right. Yeah, per election, one thing gets done. No,
Yeah.
we'll see that this time. There's enough going on this time that even the EOSBs, they're going to be able, regardless of where they get, we know they're going to get some funding. They've got enough people who are going to be in the election, surely, that there'll be somebody's going to get funding from them. So we'll see some productivity and positive things come out of that. But in terms of the other stuff, that's an actual thing. EOS support, they're going to do their thing, and that'll be good. And hopefully John's is successful with his pitch, and that'll be a good one too. So hopefully there's a few that come out of this that are still good and able to be sufficiently completed based on the funding available. And then what probably happens too is trust gets developed, right? If we have another good election, then maybe the foundation gives more money. And it's like, okay, it worked out, successful, okay, here's some more. Or maybe Block One, who's sitting on the sidelines waiting to see if this is a good thing or not. So maybe that's also part of the game here, is just incrementally increasing the amounts so that we can sort of prove it so it's deserving of more amounts. Maybe that's, yeah.
For sure.
Something to look forward to.
Yeah. I need to decide whether I'm getting in this or not. As a somebody pitching a project, like I think I'm going to participate regardless, but whether or not I'm running is another question.
Well, if you, I think I mentioned this to you before, Aaron, but certainly I'd be very willing to help represent whatever you're trying to push for, just to have another person in the mix. So if I get the sortition win, then I'll be able to, because that's sort of where I'm going to be at. I'm going to be running to, if I make it to the chief delegate round, that amount of funding, I'm going to basically take as a salary of sorts and be transparent about it, blah, blah, blah. But then the work that I do, I'm going to actually like try to get paid for it. But then if I get the lucky sortition winner, that's where, okay, now what am I going to give that to? And so that's where I'd be looking for different projects to project manage, essentially. But not even manage a project. It's more just not project manage, but fund manage, I guess, right? Because,
well, I mean, when you're the one with the money, like you're offering somebody money to do a project, like you have some sway.
Yeah, sure.
You know, your
it's more of
is important.
It's accountability. When I used to run teams of guys they ran solar and wind power plants, and I was like the boss, but I always framed it. I'm accountable for what you're doing, but I don't want to be too micromanagey, because I'd fall into that trap, and I'm not always was a great delegator. But I've realized that I'm only accountable for what you're doing. I want to give you the autonomy to make decisions and not feel like you can't decide to do something in a pickle if you're there. So that's sort of where I think this is, I'll be accountable maybe for the funds that they go through, but I'm not going to be, we need to make a decision. Let's go to the boss. He needs to decide. I don't think that's not the right place to have. Depends on the person, but for me personally, that's not where I'd want to be. Collaborative.
Yeah.
Sounding board. That's a better. Oh, well. It's all exciting. And I'm sure we'll see more projects come forward. I know John Williamson's working on something. He teased us last week about it, but we don't know what it is. So that'll be another hopefully reasonable project. I'm sure it'll be all right. So I think there'll be a few to pick from.
Yeah, for sure.
So it'll be good. See what happens. Well, gentlemen, there's just 4 of us here. Jesse, Aaron, Dario. I don't know how much longer you guys want to hang out and chat for.
Yeah, I was actually kind of hoping I can get with you, Chris, privately for a couple minutes.
Yeah, sure. Dario saying okay, bye-bye. Except you had some comments here that I missed. Dario wrote some comments. he wrote, after those different apps, maybe these apps have to add Chinese language. I read that, and then I didn't read this. Would be awesome if the foundation could fund all the wallets to update as fast as possible to a standard of free transactions for the end user and an automated resource management tool like Anchor has. And that after using the free resources, users can pay a fee to continue transacting. Yeah, sure, right? Something where it's just easy to get a user in. They don't have to worry about resources. They can just interact with the dApp. And yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like Anchor. Is that what he said?
It's Anchor. Yeah, essentially. Yep. Right on. Okay. Well, take it easy, Dario. What's the... Oh, he took off. Yeah, Aaron, anything else you want to chat about?
Nope. I will probably also send you a message at some point. Just random ideas I've had based on this call or this open mic thing.
Yeah, dude. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, Aaron.
Yeah,
anything I can support, my chat's open. So yeah, happy to hear you out. If I can help be vocal on your behalf, because you guys are busy enough actually coding. If there's value in having me support that type of stuff for you, I'm definitely open to that. So let me know.
Awesome.
Alrighty. I will end the recording. For those who made it this far, way to go. It's like 2 hours and 20 minutes of chit chat.